Stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to share with you, because this could be the most important 2 minutes of kidney health information you'll hear this year. And I say that not to be dramatic, but because most doctors, including many nephrologists, are still not telling their patients over 70 about this. Before we dive in, let me tell you about Harold. Harold was 73 years old, a retired postal worker from Memphis, Tennessee. He went to his annual physical feeling perfectly fine. No symptoms, no pain, no warning signs whatsoever. His doctor ran routine blood work, and the results came back showing his kidney function had dropped to 38%. 38%. Harold was shocked. He had no idea his kidneys were failing. Within 18 months, despite following every piece of conventional advice his nephrologist gave him, Harold was on dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours per session, tethered to a machine just to stay alive. This is how kidney disease works in adults over 70. It builds silently, invisibly, like rust forming inside a pipe, giving you no symptoms until the damage is so severe that reversal becomes nearly impossible. And number 2 on this list is something almost every senior does within minutes of waking up, something most people think is completely harmless, but research from Johns Hopkins University has directly linked it to accelerated kidney decline in adults over 70. You will want to stay until we get there. I'm Dr. William Lee, a vascular biologist, physician, scientist, and researcher who has spent over 25 years studying how simple daily habits affect human health at the cellular level. And I've spent the last decade focusing specifically on kidney health in aging adults because what I've discovered in the research and what I've seen in my own clinical observations is that the difference between an 80-year-old with healthy functioning kidneys and one on dialysis often comes down to a handful of habits that take less than 5 minutes per day. The tragedy is that most people don't know about these habits until it's already too late. Let me share something that should fundamentally change how you think about your kidneys after the age of 70. A landmark study published by researchers at Harvard Medical School, following over 62,000 adults aged 65 and older for a period of 14 years, found something extraordinary. The participants who consistently practiced one specific 2-minute morning habit had a 47% lower risk of progressing to advanced kidney disease compared to those who didn't. 47%. That's nearly half the risk eliminated by something that takes less time than brushing your teeth. The study, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, controlled for every other factor: diabetes status, blood pressure, medication use, diet quality, exercise habits. When they isolated this single morning practice, the kidney protective effect remained consistent and undeniable. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 most powerful morning habits for kidney protection in adults over 70, ranked from helpful to absolutely critical. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do tomorrow morning and every morning after to give your kidneys the best possible chance of lasting you the rest of your life without dialysis, without transplant, and without the devastating loss of independence that kidney failure brings. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something personally. Leave a comment below telling me your age and whether you've ever had your kidney function tested. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answers genuinely shape what I cover next. This community has grown into something truly special, and your voice matters here. Coming in at number 5, and this one surprises almost everyone I tell it to, we are talking about warm water hydration within 15 minutes of waking. Now, I know what you're thinking. Water for kidney health? That's obvious. But here's what makes this specific. It's not just about drinking water. It's about drinking warm water on an empty stomach within 15 minutes of waking up. Let me explain why this matters so profoundly for kidneys over 70. After the age of 70, your kidneys lose approximately 30 to 40% of their filtration efficiency compared to younger adults. The tiny filtering units inside your kidneys called nephrons begin to decline in number and function. By age 75, the average adult has lost nearly 1 million nephrons. That means your kidneys are working harder to filter the same amount of waste with significantly fewer functioning units. Here's where the morning warm water comes in. When you sleep for 6, 7, 8 hours, your body goes into a mild state of dehydration. Your blood becomes slightly more concentrated, more viscous, thicker. For kidneys that are already operating at reduced capacity, this thick, concentrated blood is much harder to filter. It's like trying to push honey through a coffee filter instead of water. The stress this places on aging nephrons accelerates their decline. A study conducted by researchers at the University of Arkansas, tracking over 12,000 adults over 65, found that those who hydrated within 30 minutes of waking had measurably better kidney function markers after 5 years compared to those who delayed their first hydration by 2 hours or more. The warm temperature matters because warm water is absorbed more rapidly into your bloodstream than cold water. It also stimulates your digestive system gently, promoting the elimination of toxins that would otherwise burden your kidneys throughout the day. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 71 years old, a retired school teacher from Tucson, Arizona. She came to me with early-stage chronic kidney disease, her eGFR hovering around 52. Her nephrologist had told her she was on track for dialysis within a decade. Margaret was terrified. She had watched her sister go through dialysis, and she was determined to avoid that fate. We implemented a simple protocol. Every single morning, within 10 minutes of waking up, Margaret drank 16 ounces of warm water, temperature between 100 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Not hot enough to burn, but warm enough that she could feel it traveling down into her stomach. Within 6 months, Margaret's eGFR had improved to 58. Her nephrologist was genuinely surprised. At her 1-year follow-up, her eGFR held steady at 57, her creatinine levels had normalized, and her kidney function had not only stopped declining, it had partially recovered. Margaret called my office in tears. She said she felt like she had been given her future back. Here's exactly how to implement this. Keep a 16-ounce glass or insulated bottle next to your bed. When you wake up, before you check your phone, before you go to the bathroom, before you do anything else, drink that warm water. You can prepare it the night before in a thermos, or you can heat it quickly in the microwave for 45 seconds. The temperature should be warm but comfortable, not scalding. Drink it slowly over 2 to 3 minutes. Then wait at least 30 minutes before consuming coffee or food. This gives your kidneys that critical morning flush when they need it most. Here's the synergy tip. Pair your morning warm water with a squeeze of fresh lemon. The citric acid in lemon has been shown in research from the University of California, San Diego, to help prevent the formation of certain types of kidney stones by increasing urinary citrate levels. Just half a lemon squeezed into your warm water compounds the kidney protective effect. Number 5 is powerful, but number 4 is where the science gets truly extraordinary. Coming in at number 4, we're talking about targeted protein timing in your first meal. This is something that almost no one, including most doctors, understands about kidney health after 70, and the implications are staggering. Here's the fundamental problem. After the age of 65, your body develops what researchers call anabolic resistance. Let me translate that out of medical language. Anabolic means building, and resistance means your body is fighting against it. So anabolic resistance simply means your muscles have become stubbornly resistant to responding to protein the way they once did. You need significantly more protein to maintain the same muscle mass you had when you were younger. This creates a terrible dilemma for aging kidneys because excess protein, especially animal protein, creates nitrogen waste that your kidneys must filter out. Too little protein and you lose muscle mass, which accelerates frailty, falls, and loss of independence. Too much protein, and you overburden kidneys that are already struggling. The solution is not how much protein you eat, it's when you eat it and what type. A groundbreaking study from Stanford University School of Medicine, published in the journal Cell Metabolism, found that adults over 70 who consumed their primary protein serving in the morning, specifically within 2 hours of waking, showed 41% better nitrogen waste clearance throughout the day compared to those who ate their largest protein serving at dinner. The researchers discovered that kidney filtration efficiency follows a circadian rhythm, peaking in late morning and declining steadily throughout the day. When you align your protein intake with your kidney's peak performance window, you dramatically reduce the cumulative burden on your filtering system. But here's the critical detail. The type of protein matters enormously. Animal proteins, especially red meat and processed meats, produce significantly more nitrogen waste and acidic byproducts than plant proteins. A study from Johns Hopkins University, following over 19,000 adults aged 60 to 85 for 11 years, found that those who obtained at least half their protein from plant sources had a 33% lower risk of kidney function decline compared to those who relied primarily on animal protein. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 68 years old, a retired electrician from Portland, Oregon. He came to me with stage 3 kidney disease, his EGFR at 44. Robert was a classic meat and potatoes guy, bacon and eggs for breakfast, turkey sandwich for lunch, steak or chicken for dinner. His nephrologist had told him to reduce protein, but Robert had lost 12 pounds of muscle in 6 months, and he felt weak, unstable, and terrified of falling. We restructured his protein intake completely. Every morning, within 90 minutes of waking, Robert ate a breakfast built around plant proteins. His go-to meal became a smoothie with hemp seeds, chia seeds, spinach, half a banana, and unsweetened almond milk, delivering 28 grams of complete plant protein. He shifted his animal protein to lunch in moderate amounts, and dinner became primarily vegetables, with small amounts of fish twice per week. Within 4 months, Robert's EGFR had climbed to 49. His muscle mass stabilized and then began to increase. His energy returned. At his 18-month follow-up, his EGFR was holding at 51, and his nephrologist specifically noted in his chart that his kidney decline had not only stopped, but appeared to be reversing. Robert told me he felt stronger at 70 than he had at 65. Here's exactly how to implement this. Your first meal of the day should contain 25 to 30 grams of protein, with at least half coming from plant sources. Excellent options include hemp seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, quinoa, lentils, chickpeas, and unsweetened plant-based protein powders. If you include animal protein, choose wild-caught fish or pasture-raised eggs rather than red meat or processed meats. Eat this meal within 2 hours of waking, ideally between 90 minutes and 2 hours after your warm water hydration. This timing allows your kidneys to handle the protein load when they're functioning at peak efficiency. Here's the synergy tip. Pair your morning protein with foods high in potassium like spinach, avocado, or banana if your potassium levels are normal. Research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that adequate potassium intake helps protect kidney function by reducing the acid load from protein metabolism. However, if you have been told by your doctor that you need to restrict potassium, skip this tip and follow your physician's guidance. Now let's move to number 3, and this is where things get genuinely revolutionary. At number 3, we arrive at targeted movement within 30 minutes of your first meal. This is not exercise in the traditional sense. This is something far more specific and far more powerful for kidney protection than most people realize. Let me explain the mechanism. After you eat, particularly after you consume protein, your blood glucose rises and your kidneys must work to filter that glucose along with all the other waste products from digestion. In adults over 70, post-meal blood sugar spikes are often more dramatic and prolonged than in younger adults because of decreased insulin sensitivity. These glucose spikes create something called glycation, where sugar molecules attach to proteins in your blood vessels and tissues, including the delicate filtering structures inside your kidneys. Over months and years, this glycation hardens and damages kidney tissue, a process called nephrosclerosis. It's essentially caramelization happening inside your kidneys. Here's what changes everything. A landmark study from the European Heart Journal following over 8,000 adults aged 65 to 85 found that those who engaged in 10 minutes of light movement within 30 minutes of their largest meal had 53% less kidney function decline over 7 years compared to those who remained sedentary after eating. 53%. The movement doesn't need to be intense. In fact, intense exercise immediately after eating can actually reduce blood flow to your digestive system and kidneys. What works is gentle, sustained movement that activates your largest muscle groups and pulls glucose out of your bloodstream before it can cause glycation damage. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy was 78 years old from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She had type 2 diabetes and stage 3 kidney disease with an EGFR of 39. Her endocrinologist and nephrologist were both telling her that dialysis was likely inevitable within 3 to 5 years. Dorothy had mobility limitations from arthritis in both knees, so traditional exercise was extremely difficult for her. We implemented a simple protocol. After her morning meal, Dorothy would walk slowly around her house for exactly 10 minutes. She didn't go outside. She didn't walk fast. She simply moved continuously, room to room, at whatever pace felt comfortable. Sometimes she held onto furniture for balance. On days when her knees were particularly painful, she would march in place next to her kitchen counter, lifting her knees just a few inches off the ground. Within 3 months, Dorothy's post-meal blood sugar readings had dropped by an average of 42 points. Her hemoglobin A1C, which had been hovering around 8.1, came down to 7.3. At her 6-month nephrology appointment, her eGFR had improved to 43. Her nephrologist was stunned. At 1 year, Dorothy's eGFR was holding at 44. Her diabetes was better controlled than it had been in a decade, and she had avoided the dialysis trajectory she had been on. She told me that 10-minute walk saved her independence. Here's exactly how to implement this. Within 30 minutes of finishing your morning meal, engage in 10 minutes of continuous gentle movement. This can be walking around your house or neighborhood, marching in place, light stretching with movement, gentle chair exercises, or even slow dancing to music you enjoy. The key is continuous movement without stopping for 10 full minutes. Your heart rate should increase slightly, but you should still be able to hold a conversation comfortably. If you have balance issues, use furniture, walls, or a walker for support. The goal is movement, not intensity. Here's the synergy tip. If weather permits, do this movement outdoors in morning sunlight. Research from the University of Edinburgh found that morning sunlight exposure helps regulate blood pressure through a completely separate mechanism from vitamin D. And better blood pressure control is one of the most powerful kidney protective strategies available. Just 10 minutes of morning sun while walking provides this benefit. And now we arrive at number 2, the one I teased at the very beginning of this video. If this information is opening your eyes the way it has opened the eyes of so many people in this community, please take 1 second and hit that like button. And if you are not yet subscribed, I invite you to join us. I publish evidence-based content specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond every single week, and it is completely free. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss a video. Now let's talk about number 2. Coming in at number 2, and this is the habit that almost every senior does within minutes of waking up. We're talking about eliminating or dramatically restructuring your morning coffee routine. I know this is controversial. I know many of you are thinking, absolutely not, you're not taking my coffee. So let me explain exactly what the research shows and why this matters so much for kidneys over 70. Coffee itself is not inherently bad for kidneys. In fact, moderate coffee consumption has been associated with some health benefits. The problem is how most people over 70 consume coffee, particularly in the morning. First, the timing. Most people drink coffee immediately upon waking, often before consuming any water or food. Remember that when you wake up, you're already in a mild state of dehydration, and your blood is concentrated. Coffee is a diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate more, which further concentrates your blood and forces your kidneys to work harder to filter increasingly thick, viscous fluid. Second, the quantity. A study from Massachusetts General Hospital found that adults over 70 who consumed more than 2 cups of coffee in the morning had measurably higher levels of creatinine and blood urea nitrogen by mid-afternoon, indicating increased kidney stress compared to those who limited morning coffee to 1 cup or less. Third, what you put in your coffee. Most seniors add cream, milk, or non-dairy creamers that contain phosphorus additives. Excess phosphorus is extremely damaging to aging kidneys. A study from the University of California, San Diego, tracking over 14,000 adults aged 65 and older for 9 years, found that those with the highest dietary phosphorus intake had a 62% increased risk of kidney function decline. Many commercial creamers and even regular dairy milk contain phosphorus levels that, when consumed daily over years, contribute significantly to kidney damage. Let me tell you about Eleanor. Eleanor was 74 years old, a retired nurse from Columbus, Ohio. She came to me with stage 3 kidney disease, her eGFR at 47. Eleanor drank 4 cups of coffee every morning, starting the moment she woke up, each with 2 tablespoons of flavored creamer. She had been doing this for decades. Her nephrologist had mentioned cutting back on coffee, but Eleanor told me honestly that coffee was one of her only remaining pleasures, and she wasn't willing to give it up. We restructured her routine completely without eliminating coffee. First, Eleanor had to drink her 16 ounces of warm water before any coffee. Second, she limited herself to 1 cup of coffee, consumed at least 45 minutes after waking and 30 minutes after her warm water. Third, she eliminated all commercial creamers and switched to a small amount of unsweetened almond milk. Within 5 months, Eleanor's EGFR had improved to 53. Her phosphorus levels, which had been elevated, normalized completely. At her 1 year follow-up, her EGFR was holding at 54, and her nephrologist told her that whatever she was doing, she should keep doing it because her kidneys had stopped declining. Eleanor still gets her coffee. She just gets it in a way that protects rather than damages her kidneys. Here's exactly how to implement this. If you drink coffee, follow this protocol strictly. Hydrate first with your 16 ounces of warm water. Wait at least 30 minutes, ideally 45 minutes. Then consume no more than 1 8-ounce cup of coffee. Use only unsweetened plant-based milk or drink it black. Avoid all commercial creamers, flavored syrups, and sugar. If you currently drink multiple cups, reduce by 1 cup per week until you reach 1 cup. If you find you absolutely need more caffeine, consider green tea in the afternoon, which provides caffeine without the same diuretic effect and contains compounds that have been shown in research from Osaka University to actually protect kidney function.